live. Let's see. I think everything is going okay. Let's see. Let me check to see if how many drop frames do we have.
How
It's
bad is Phil
yeah.
lagging?
Well, yeah. I guess I'm happy to say tonight, in addition to my two brothers, we're also joined by a friend. His name's Phil. He goes by scrap.code on Instagram, and he's also part of a podcast called The Cutting Mat and like a Premonition of Paint. If people have not listened to any of those, they should go check that out. Well, nice to have you
Yeah.
here, Phil.
Thanks for having me, fellas. It's been fun.
Yeah, nah, but yeah, as Adam suggested, the Cutting Mat is a cool podcast that I like initially started primarily to talk about the sort of related gunpla hobby, like putting together model Gundams and robots and whatnot. But as I feel a lot of people who do that are just generally interested in scale models and painting little figures and stuff, there's some overlap with the Warhammer
Mm-hmm.
hobby. And as a result, the podcast kind of had an offshoot podcast called Premonition of Paint that is also great and is directly related
Yeah.
with, the hobby that we're spent the last, I don't know, 25 years in or whatnot. But yeah, but it's nice to have you on here and just to, talk about the hobby and maybe what everyone's working on.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
It seems that you have a 3D printer. Is that something that you've been working with for a while? Like you've been printing a bunch of like chibi
Yeah,
40K
I've
models
always
and things, which are pretty charming.
yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with those. Those are all this dude. He's actually one of the reasons I got a 3D printer. This dude runs his name's Heriberto. I'm gonna murder your name, man. I'm sorry. It's Heriberto Valle Martinez. He runs an outfit called Capsule Chibi on Patreon. And
That's
he
great.
makes such awesome stuff. Like everything of his that I see, I'm just like, this is fucking great. I want to paint all of these. So the cool thing about the printing is it makes somebody that has that kind of insane output that makes them a sculptor you can actually interact with meaningfully without having $1 billion. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I could print up 300 unique sculpts, and he's got them because he just works constantly, and the dude's amazing.
That's
Um,
cool.
anyway, I have been kind of hooked on that stuff lately, but I mean, we've talked before. Like I started getting into Warhammer stuff like right at the tail end of Rogue Trader, and I've painted orcs since second edition and everything. Like I love all that stuff. That's always been like my main nerd outlet. So yeah, I met the cutting mat guys when I was messing around with Gunpla for a while, and they're just awesome. And then one of the guys on there, Brandon, who's a big miniature dude and has been for some time. Uh, and then the other guy, Joel, just got into minis a couple of years ago. But like the cool thing about the Gunpla people that do experiment and try out miniatures and stuff is they usually go pretty hard on it, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been fun. There was enough interest in the Gunpla community that they started that little sub podcast, and I was lucky enough that they invited me to come hang out with them. So I get to talk about painting all the time, which is nice.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. And I mean, it's always nice to interact with other people and kind of related hobbies because I feel there's a lot that can be learned from, yeah, different hobbies that maybe are working at a different scale or
Yeah,
different, I don't know, theme or atmosphere, but a lot of the techniques are very transferable.
totally, totally. And
And
it should be.
it's in some sense, it's interesting how much Games Workshop has like almost created their like tried and true method to like assemble and paint models that misses a lot of other techniques and products and things that you could do to, I don't know, improve the process or be a little bit more flexible or creative in the painting process. But I mean, I guess it makes sense from their standpoint as a business trying to like make it a paint by numbers thing and be very easy to achieve something somewhat akin to what's on the box. But
I think there's kind of a sliding scale of evil there. It's like it just kind of like depending on like where you are comfortable looking at it from. It's like on one hand, there's what you were saying, where it's like they make the paint, they make the brushes,
Yeah.
they make everything that according to them you might ever need. So of course they're gonna, engineer everything so that like every dime comes back their way. Uh then on the other hand, it's like we all started painting around the same time. You remember what it was
Mhm.
like back then. There was
oh
no
yeah,
internet, there was no Duncan, there was no, there was none of
Yeah.
that. We were learning in a vacuum.
yeah.
Like,
So we were very much at the mercy of what Games Workshop was selling and pushing out.
well, but
'Cause-
I mean, I didn't feel like that at the time. Like anytime they came out
No.
with something, I was like, awesome, something made for this. It's like,
Yeah.
but it was a different company back then.
Like, I don't need those
No.
apple barrel paints I got at AC Moore.
Dude,
Yeah.
I still got them.
yeah.
That stuff is killer scenery
that-
paint.
Yeah. No, I mean it's true. Like I think it's now a lot easier than it was back then. But like the notion to, like, I think when we started, it's like, well, you would, of course, you were just gonna buy the stuff that the company was making. It was all there. But I think it did take a little while to like realize, like, I could start looking outside of their stuff, because like there are so many different paints and stuff available that
I find it interesting thinking back on our experience starting and painting and stuff, like getting like one of their garbage paint sets that has like a Space Marine and like a Chaos Knight or whatnot. And then they have a little single leaflet folded thing, tells you how to paint it. And
Those
like
were
how
awesome,
bad they were.
awesome. Like
But come on.
But
I
but
saw
I
Why
lo-
are you so bitter about that shit? I've heard this before from you guys. Those things were awesome.
I mean, I loved it, but
Citadel
what's
painting
weird to
guide.
me. What was weird to me, like they didn't like tell. Oh fuck, there it is.
Here it is. One
oh,
of
you
them.
got
It, it would be interesting to look through it and read it. Were we just too dumb or like not
Actually.
didn't read or something? But
No.
like,
I mean, they were.
did it
definitely
tell you to
camp-
thin your paints?
Oh hell
I-
no, no.
I doubt it.
Like, I feel
No.
that just that one thing would have helped a lot.
Well, you got to remember too. It's like we're in this age where this has been a worldwide, crazy bonkers profitable hobby for so long that everybody's figured out all kinds of different tricks and stuff. When we were learning how to do this stuff, they had just started using acrylic paints for minis. Like
It's true.
Blanche was
Yeah.
still painting everything all in oils. Like it was all,
Well,
You know,
actually,
those garbage
everybody-
Tesla enamels.
yeah.
Actually, this is pretty great. So it says mixing paints. Do people see this? Yeah, you can see it. At least.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
Remove
actually
a
good.
small amount of paint from the pot and mix it on your palette with a little water. Fuck, there it is.
Holy shit!
There it
so they
They
is.
got ginger paints from day one, and just nobody paid attention.
Yeah,
Yes,
there
so
it is.
Fuck!
that's amazing. So they did tell us.
And yeah, and then they even double down. Never use paint straight from the pot because the consistency may not be right. Fuck yeah, they got it. It's right
They
there.
Oh my god, that's incredible.
I
So
swear to
we
God,
were
I know-
just
Holy shit.
Oh.
Mix the paint on your palette first, checking the consistency and adding more water if needed. Fuck. They got it all.
This is bullshit. You invent what?
All of the
I can't believe
Oh my
it.
god. All of the paint in the Citadel color range are fully intermixable, allowing you to produce a huge range of colors. Holy shit.
all right. So I stand corrected.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I have an out here because I had to paint with apple barrels and shit because I lived in the middle of fuck off nowhere, Iowa.
Uh-huh.
We didn't have game stores, man. I had to drive 2 hours to go buy the big second edition box set. Like that was my birthday
Damn.
present that year. Like I didn't have Citadel, okay? Like
Yeah, so you hadn't, yeah.
the only Citadel box set that I ever got was for my birthday, on my 18th birthday. I was super cool, by the way. For my 18th birthday, I got the Citadel Ink box set. You know, the one with like the
Okay.
demon like coming up out of the
Yeah.
pool of color. I was like, holy shit, I'm a pro now. Yeah.
God.
But yeah, that's the only one I had, and it definitely did not tell me to thin my paints. That's amazing. They were
God,
telling
I
me from
can't-
day
yes.
one.
I'm fucking glad I
can't
found
believe it.
this. Like,
So yeah, I was just wrong. So I mean,
Wow.
I
you
was
just had to read it.
Dude, I didn't get thin your paints until like 2001. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, because God, that's an important thing.
So this is something like this old like second edition plastic Space Marine. I feel I want to try and eBay one of them, a new one.
You guys
that
have
hasn't
got to
been
still have one of those.
I mean, we have tons of them that I think they're all painted and
Throw them in some alcohol. Store it
yeah, I
over.
mean,
It's-
that's
it's
true.
like day one. Day one.
that's probably what we should do. But I would like to repaint one. And this little Chaos like Axe Knight, or they just call him
Kind
a
of
Chaos
looks like
Warrior.
Slambo.
He does kind of.
Yeah.
He, I think, was the first model that I ever painted.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He's great.
What was the
Do we
first
still have it?
I think we do
Maybe.
somewhere. Yeah,
I think the
we should
first,
try and find him.
like I was into Rogue Trader right at the end of it, but I was like broke farm kid and like watching my friend's older brother play with his cool toys
Mhm.
that I didn't know how to get hold of. And then he
Mhm.
was like, new games coming out, just go get that. So I was like, I'm going. But yeah, I think the first one I actually painted was one of the second edition Goths. Pretty sure.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, they're cool. I like
I
that.
like those orcs.
Yeah.
See, look,
I would paint one right now if I had one. I
Yeah.
found one of the naked, like those awful Gretchen that came in that box. where
About
she
all
was, like, part
40
the
of
auto
them?
gun.
Yeah,
Yeah. I found a naked one in my bits box the other day. I'm so stoked. I'm gonna try and
that's
not
awesome.
embarrass myself painting that.
I'm
orc.
pretty sure we painted all of the Gretchen and all of the orcs from I guess it was that boxed game.
Yeah, totally.
That was. Look
And
here.
I mean, all the Marines too.
Yeah. Well, so
So
here.
like that was like probably the only Games Workshop box game we ever got that we actually painted everything.
Gorka Morka. We painted everything in Gorka Morka too.
I guess that's true.
Ah,
We
dude,
fucking did it.
You
Yeah.
just spoke a dangerous word around me, fellas. That I could talk at nauseating length about Gorka Morka and my
Yeah,
deep
see,
love
I
for
feel
the game.
that is something. What we should just do sometime? We should try and hold an event or something, a Gorka Morka
Dude.
event, because
Dude,
it would be the greatest shit ever. Because like, oh my god,
seriously.
we need
the
to try
game
and do
is
it.
such a mess, but it's the flat out the best story G-Dubs ever came up with for one of their games.
It's great.
Yeah, I love Gorka Morka. So I mean, I guess while we had second edition and like we played it, like we pushed models around and rolled dice. I don't know if I ever really read the rule book. It was only when Gorka Morka came out that I remember one Christmas morning reading the rule book, and like I remember like this epiphany going off in my head when I read about like weapon skill and ballistic skill and how you subtract that number from 7 to determine. I was like, oh my god, like this is what you do.
I'm a game designer now.
Yeah. And so for the first time ever, like I learned like what is essentially a core tenet of basically all of Games Workshop's games.
Yeah,
I mean,
for a
now it's
long,
been
long
simplified
time.
and streamlined in a way that they don't tell it and they just tell you what the number you need to roll and whatnot. But even still, like, it was a big day in that I was actually learned the rules and then like we played it a lot.
It was awesome. I mean, it was basically just Necromunda reskinned with orcs and less stuff and cars,
Yeah,
Yes.
which was amazing. Like, didn't I read someplace that Andy Chambers wrote that in like a month?
I'm pretty
Like,
sure he did.
he had like no time to write it, just
Yeah.
cranked it out, and it was still dope because fucking Andy Chambers. But
Mhm.
but no, man, it was great. It took it did what G-Dubs never fucking does, and it just took one idea and just drove it into the dirt, and it was awesome. It was so
No,
much fun.
I loved it, and then Big and Knob, the expansion had Rebel Grots, and
Dude, I
all
had
those
Rebel
little Rebel Grot models are wonderful.
Oh, they are the guys with like the like dust bandanas wrapped around their
And
faces,
then the
like
little AK-47 like
Yeah!
shooters. Yeah.
And
Well, and the
Right.
whole concept, like the those all those old skirmish games, like I think we were actually talking about this morning in the game chat on the Discord, where like the real charm of those games is in that like post game sequence,
Yeah,
where like
yeah.
everybody levels up or whatever. And the Rebel Grots, like they just like somebody who just hates people wrote the Rebel Grots. You have to hate yourself to play Rebel Grots because
All
it's
those
like
shitty little
everybody.
vehicles too.
Oh yeah, man.
the big lava or whatever, and
The
the
gun
Yeah.
cutter.
The
Loved
kata,
it.
like you're wind sailing across the desert. Perfect.
yeah,
But
I
everybody else
have
levels up in the post game, and the
Mhm.
Grots, it's just a question of how hard the committee fucks you.
Yeah.
yeah
It's who
the
gets killed.
revolution.
It was
Yeah.
so good. I
Yeah, I
love
loved
those
it.
guys. GRC was awesome.
The Red
Heck,
Gobo.
the Diggas were great. The
Yeah, like
muties were
all of it
cool.
was great. Like,
The
cause
whole the last
right
admix
before
expedition or whatever.
after college, and I spent a year at the NIH doing like kind of a internship thing before going off to actually graduate school, and I had like two roommates, and we got we got back into Gorka Morka for like that year, and I
Awesome.
played a bunch. I like eBayed a bunch of Rebel Grots and got one of the katas and that stuff, and like they were all metal, so it was kind of awful.
No, they were
But
great. You could
oh, I mean, I
you
love
could
the
stab a
models.
man. You could stab a
Yeah.
man with the
Yeah,
kata frame.
You really
that is
could.
certainly true, and like it didn't really fit together quite right,
Oh,
but
no, the warping and everything. Well, they
yeah,
were all
but
hand
Right.
cast, though.
Yep. Fucking great.
it's
Well,
true.
spun
But
casted,
yeah,
sorry.
it's
Yeah,
really fun.
Yeah. No, it was great. I mean, I actually that's another reason. Don't get a printer if you're an old mini nerd. Don't get a printer because I definitely found all the files for katas, labas. What
Oh damn.
the files are in the computer. I'm just waiting for somebody else that's as big of a dork as me to like appear near me.
Yeah.
As soon as
Yeah.
that happens, it's on. We're going back to fucking Angeles. It's gonna
Well,
be amazing.
the newer like the plastic grots aren't very good.
I haven't looked at a lot of the new stuff that's coming
They
out.
suck. They suck.
Yeah,
I mean, a bunch of the like Warhammer, like the newer Warhammer grots and the Age of Sigmar ones, they're not bad.
they're pretty good.
I've always liked
But
gobos. Like any kind of goblin, I'm into it.
yeah, I love it. They're great. Except for those plastic 40k goblins or
They're
grots
just
or
they're
whatever.
not. Yeah, they don't.
They tried to maintain the Gorka Morka charm, but don't quite get it.
No.
I think I know. Are you talking about the little box that came with like the runt herd and the?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. I try usually to be like, just paint it, see what happens. Sometimes there's some
Mhm.
hidden charm in there. No, those were actually pretty weak. You're right. They were they were
But
kind
I
of
mean,
light.
it in some sense, like having some of them with all the others, like just to have that variety and whatnot, is fine. But like, I can't imagine getting 100 of those.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I can't even. I don't know how anybody affords this game anymore. Honestly,
It
the
is
yeah,
whole
it's
rough.
idea of
true.
having 100 of anything. I'm like, can I just have 5? I'll do 5.
Yeah.
Let's
No,
do
it's
something
much
else.
better. Well, you see, that's how like you can start a podcast and a blog all about the hobby and never play the game, or
Also-
like play pseudo like side things of the game, but
Yeah.
like never, like I can't even like literally I can't imagine building a 40k army.
God,
or even
no.
painting
even if
it.
you had it playing the game. So like I guess before the pandemic hit, I had a group of people we'd play like board games and miniature games with, and
Sure.
every other week we would play like miniature based games. And the latest game we started playing was Saga Age of Magic.
That Viking game? Or
Yeah,
whatever?
so the original version of the rule set was based around Vikings and stuff, and then they had another one later, one called Age of Magic, which like built on that and added magic and stuff like that. And you can use whatever miniatures you want, and in general, the scale of the battles they're smaller than 40k. Like I think Age of Magic made larger scale games than with like the Viking stuff, and like even that, like the army of guys you'd use, it wasn't that big. Like maybe you'd have like 4 or 5 squads of things, and like it's just too much. Like I didn't find it that fun. Like too much going on, too many things to like push around, and like I just didn't. It didn't, or it doesn't really hold my interest very much. And I imagine a similar thing would happen if I'd play Warhammer 40,000. It's like, I don't know.
It's like, on one hand, I love, the grandeur of the big 40k game or whatever. I mean, that was what got me when I was a kid. You look in the photo section, it's the big table full of dudes. You're like, holy shit, this is going to be amazing if I ever have, an extra 30 people to help me paint these.
Yeah.
But that was why I loved Epic, like I think that's why it's a bummer that they don't really do the
Yeah, wasn't that an Andy Chambers game?
I mean, there were so many versions of it. He had a direct hand, and I think he pretty much wrote actual Epic 40k, but like before that it was Space Marine. I'm pretty sure that was
that's true. Yeah, but like when we started in the hobby was like right when Epic 40k came out with that John Blanche Blood Angel cover with the like I don't know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was the one Andy wrote. I think.
Well, and I guess he also wrote Battlefleet Gothic too. I'm pretty sure, which people loved. And
BFG was great. I mean, it's Trafalgar in space. What's not to love?
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. That actually kind of goes back to what you guys were saying a minute ago. Like when you're playing all the games that we got into when we were kids are like really weird mutants as far as war games go, because everything before we started ruining everything for everybody else was they were all historical based war games that were all scaled appropriate to the level of conflict you were basically recreating. Like the historical war gamers are basically Civil War reenactors as far as I'm concerned. Sorry fellas, but but it's the thing, it's like the game feels right when they're playing it because it is right. And then along come us and we're like, Rogue Trader was like a handful of dudes because that was what was available. And then second edition was like, okay, we're going to use the same rule set, but you're going to use 7,000 of them because we're getting paid. And and the game was a mess and it was still fun and we didn't care. And they've kind of been fighting it every step of the way, but every once in a while in there they get these little moments of clarity, like like 97 Necromunda comes out, 10 dudes, have fun. But that's what broke me. I was like, fuck, I'm not doing this giant stuff anymore. If I want a big army, I'll do an epic one,
No, that's true. Yeah, so it's interesting to kind of look back at some of that stuff, and I would be interested to kind of go back and reread some of the rule sets and stuff, but my recollection of second edition, there was just so much crazy shit, like so much crazy war gear, and like It's like, oh, I want a vortex grenades and like my stupid, crazy, powerful commanders and shit. That like it was
like
wild.
displacer fields and conversion beamers and
I like that you're literally saying like all the bullshit that Elder could do. Standard orc player complaints.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, they were just having fun, you know. Like they were just seeing what they could do with it. That's why the second edition orcs were great. That game was a mess, but like the second edition orc codex is like the most joyful eruption of craziness ever.
that was the first codex book we ever purchased.
Same here, man.
Yeah.
Nah, it was amazing. Your storm boys flew off the table on the second turn. Your
Yeah,
boys'
they all
heads
fly
would
away.
explode. Like half the guys ran away, the other half were fighting each other. It was a glorious, I don't care what happens here attitude that I have held on to every day since then, and the gaming community seems to have gone the polar opposite direction with it. But nah, man, it was good. I think the orcs kind of made us immune to how broken that game system was, because it didn't matter. We were probably going to lose anyway.
Yeah.
we were just there to see what kind of ridiculous shit would happen, which is kind of how I do everything. So I'm into it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting how different Games Workshop is now, but how because of the internet, podcasts, streams, like things like what we're doing now, how little it matters.
Yeah,
and still allows us to kind of keep whatever facet of the hobby we particularly liked alive.
Well, and then you can also find other
I think that's up to
people.
you.
Yeah, and then other you can eat much easier now find other people that are kind of interested in the same stuff.
Well, that's the thing that gets left out so often, you know. Like I feel like anytime you talk to an actual game designer or one of the people that actually wrote these games that we've all, you know, even if we weren't like, I haven't played Warhammer since like 3 days after 4th edition came out. You know, I just haven't. I've painted every day, but I haven't played the games.
Yeah.
But anytime you talk to the guys that and gals that had a hand in actually doing that stuff, they were like, "Look, it's your game."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like just you don't want the orcs to be stupid and angry all the time. Make them be crazy again. It'll be fun. Do your own thing. You know, like you don't want any of this to be the way it is. It's your world, man. Paint it how you want. The standardization of everything. Like on one hand, like you were saying earlier, it simplifies things. It makes it more accessible to somebody that's walking into this gigantic world full of 30 years of bullshit. And it gives you like that toehold where you could be like, okay, I know this guy's supposed to be yellow. Onward, we don't need that because we were there from the drop. So maybe that seems dumb to us or whatever. I hope not, because I hope everybody can kind of remember that this is a fucking game. These are toys. Have fun, for Christ's sake. But it's whatever. It depends on how you react to the way things are versus how you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, and to be honest, it is interesting because even how we got into it, like playing Gorka Morka, things like that, but still, like, we kept somewhat trying to be involved in 40K and like buying codex books, reading it, even though we progressively stopped playing.
Oh yeah.
But like when we got into college, like while we were still like I was still reading the rules and stuff, like we would only like play like a couple games a year or something, and then eventually just completely stopped and realized that we still like the setting and the models and converting building stuff, and there was nothing wrong with just completely embracing that component of it.
Yeah.
So I feel it was a long process of where we started to where we are now with streaming like this, rambling about niche aspects of the hobby. And
for all 5 people that have any idea what we're talking about,
Yeah, that's right. Which it is very interesting. But I think it's cool because of things like this, 28 magazine and things of that nature. It's a way that more people can, I would say, more quickly be exposed to this concept that you don't have to be so laser focused on what Games Workshop is doing. You don't have to like, oh, I just started the game, got my sisters a battle army and the codex, and like within a year they've already released the second codex, and like you don't really have to bother with that. I mean, if you want to, that's cool, but like you don't need that to derive enjoyment out of it.
No, not at all. I mean, there were always going to be the people that were interested in the competitive aspect of it. Especially since like when we started, tournament play wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't designed as a competitive rule set. It was designed as a narrative skirmish that they suddenly threw too many dudes at. But
yeah.
But like as they started to develop that kind of tournament mentality of it or whatever, that you started to see that divide. There were the guys that were there to fight, and the guys that were there to make some cool stuff and be like, maybe we go pew pew later. I don't know, but look at this mountain I made.
Yeah.
The I was always that idiot and still am, but the it's not that big of a deal. Like I don't think those are necessarily mutually exclusive unless people make it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see lines get drawn a lot, which is weird. I mean, we're all fucking dorks. Like, what are we doing trying to divvy up? Like circle the wagons, y'all. But the I don't know. I've always enjoyed that side of it. But you said something that grabbed my attention. The bit about maybe more people learn faster, that you don't have to do it the die cut way or whatever. How much of that do you think? And I am curious about your opinion. How much of that do you think comes from like some like megalomaniacal plan from the company to make everything our way, and how much of that do you think is actually just like the game culture doing that? I've never heard anybody that works for GDubs be like, "You must paint this three codes or these three colors of blue or whatever." But I watched a nerd on a YouTube stream tell Marco for Sony that he had to paint an ultramarine a certain color. I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? But like,
so
how does that work?
I would be willing to say like almost everyone who works at the company would balk at the notion that you have to paint like an ultramarine this way.
Right.
But I think sort of just in relationship to where the company is and how they have to have their own IP, all that other stuff. So like they have to market everything in a way that's very like, this is a way you can do all this stuff. And so depending on who's coming into it, like as you were mentioning earlier, like if you really don't know anything about anything, haven't really painted anything, assembled anything like that, I guess you can find a lot of, say, comfort in like, oh, look, there are instructions about how to do everything, the paints that I should use, and stuff like that. And I guess
this is a pin vise perfect for drilling bolter barrels.
Seriously,
and like a mold line remover, I have to buy this. Only $25.
Yeah, I mean that was after we've probably all had this discussion 1,000 times. It's like it was different. White Dwarf used to tell you how to make a windmill out of a shoebox and some cereal packets. Now it's like,
or they would give you a windmill for the release of Gorka Morka.
Right?
yeah.
Forgot about that. Oh man, it had a whole fort in it.
Yeah, I love that stuff. Was great.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think I would like to think a lot of the people, maybe right when they began the hobby, if this was kind of a very new thing for them, like they had never really dabbled much in art or anything like that, in their very initial, like, formative years of doing that, maybe they're very gung-ho about following what Games Workshop tells them, but I'd like to think relatively quickly they learn that they can just do whatever they want to do. but
Good. That's the point.
I don't really know
Like
whether or not that's true.
I can't imagine the heavy metal team painting with Games Workshop brushes.
Also, actually, tangent. Who's tried the new Games Workshop synthetic brushes? They're in stores now.
What?
I have not.
Did
So
they
you-
find a way to make synthetic brushes appealing to somebody?
Well, so yeah, so they have synthetic brushes, and
I
their bristles
doubt it.
are like a clear plastic look to them.
Oh, God
Uh,
hands.
yeah, so like they're. And the big thing that I wonder is, I'm sure, like most of the synthetic brushes and stuff, they don't last very long. They're very prone to like curling and other shit like that, or at
Yeah.
least that's been my
They are.
experience.
No,
But
they're there. That's
but
nylon.
most
That's
of the time, they're fine because they're really cheap.
Yeah,
And
man.
so like it doesn't really matter if you ruin a brush relatively quickly. So that's the thing I don't know about the GW synthetic brushes. I don't know if they're really cheap. They may be really cheap compared to their normal. I don't know. I didn't pay that much attention. We could
The
actually
thing with
try.
synthetics, yeah, that's worth looking into. The thing with synthetics, I feel like I give this fucking lecture 1,000 times a year. I need to figure out a way to pare it down. I'm gonna try it real quick. They're great. It's a paintbrush. It puts paint on things. Like they work just as well as a sable until they don't. And
Mhm.
then you throw it away, or better yet, put it in a cup right next to you because you can always find a use for a fucked up brush.
Yeah,
And
True.
add another one out. And the reason they're great is because you can get a bag of them, like 20 of them in there for $5.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Now you can paint for the next 2 months until these go to shit and then go do it again.
The small layer brush is $6.40. The synthetic.
I mean, I think I got an 8404 round for fucking 15. So that's not terribly sound spending, but
Yeah.
whatever.
See, that's the thing. So okay, so yeah, they're like $6 or $7 for the
They're
synthetic.
slightly cheaper than their other kind of layer brushes and whatnot. But well, no, the small base brush is $6. So they're basically the same cost.
That's weird. Like, I wonder what
That is weird.
is.
But I don't think their non-synthetic brushes are particularly good. Or the ones that I've used just tend to split, and I mean, admittedly, I haven't used that many, but they've
never
never
used-
impressed me.
So
the ones that were available at my store were always just bare, and people had clearly like rubbed them around on stuff, so the brushes were already thrashed. I never even tried one.
so
they might be great, but I wouldn't.
I've used a few GW brushes over the years, and my experience with them was they don't hold their shape very well. And even if, like, I always tried to take care of them, but like I never had great experience with any of them. And like some of the nicer like brushes, like the Raphael brushes, or like Winsor Newton brushes and stuff like that, like they last a long time, even if you just sort of take care of them.
I feel like Winsor and Newton actually at least made, if not makes, the Citadel brushes.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I think they're
Yeah.
just rebranded W&Ns. I mean, that doesn't mean it's the same as like a Series 7 or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
'Cause they
Also,
make all kinds of grades of stuff, but
also Games Workshop, they have their Artificer. Is that what it is? Artificer
Yeah.
grade brushes, and those are
isn't that just
supposed to
they're
be
tinier.
Those are supposed to be their like. I bet they say they have like, or maybe they don't say anything. They're the best brushes
five
money
more
can
hairs
buy. Yeah, they say highest quality sable hair designed to help you achieve. So I've never tried one of their Artificer brushes.
I mean,
but
there's so
they're
much marketing and everything.
they're a lot. Like the medium brush is like $27.
What?
It's like, Jesus, that's fucking awful. Like, why would
Yeah,
I do that when I could buy? So yeah, I think in the past I'd considered maybe I should buy one of these. It's like, no, I'm just gonna buy the other ones that I know are nice that are cheaper.
See, that's what you start a Patreon for. To afford.
to make your $80 dry brushes. It's
That's
it's
rough.
funny, you know. Oh, I shouldn't. Jeez, I forgot I'm on the internet right now. I'd use them, you know, whatever. But the the first time I actually like it occurred to me to like get nicer brushes
Mm-hmm.
was because I painted with synthetic value packs for like 10 years before I first
Yeah.
got thin year paints in the early 2000s and was like, oh shit, I'm doing this wrong. But that was like right after War Machine took off, and they had a great forum.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that were in the on the brush thralls team back then, I don't know if any of you guys were involved with any of that stuff at all.
Not a
But
We
whole
were
lot.
not really into War Machine at all, so it's not.
yeah, either way, Privateer was like as much
Mm-hmm.
of a fucking like militant anti G Dubs movement at the peak of the evil empire period as it was a game. And as a
Yeah.
result, everybody was really nice because like, we're not gonna do this shit. It's gonna be great. We're gonna help each other. It was
Mm-hmm.
very kumbaya for a minute, and I learned so fucking much. That most of the stuff I learned about painting that actually like I'm not amazing, but I'm okay. And pretty much everything I know that got me that way was from those guys. So brush throws, you know,
That's
you guys
cool.
are the shit. Uh, but yeah, like they were like passing around like scanned photocopies of like magazine articles I couldn't afford from faraway lands. Like Jen Haley had an article about her Series 7s and how she takes care of them. I was like, I didn't even know
Hmm.
this existed, you know? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I got those, and they cost so much back then because there was no Amazon. I had to go to an art store and pay art store prices for crazy
Mm-hmm.
expensive brushes that I had no idea how to use.
Yeah,
Uh,
or maintain.
yeah, so like you know, I think fancy brushes and stuff.
Who knew
Like,
there was brush soap, right?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I didn't discover masters until like 5 years after I destroyed several Series 7s.
Yeah.
But either way, and now Series 7s kind of suck out of nowhere, which is a bum. I mean, Christ, I never wanted sponsorship of any kind, but
Yeah.
making sure I don't get any now. uh, blah 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 blah. The point is that it doesn't matter. Like, use the tool that works. Figure it out. There's no like magic tool that makes you good at
Or,
anything.
well, yeah, and what you have.
Yeah, just work
Yeah.
it. Synthetics are fine. There's nothing wrong with them. Don't pay $30 a pop for them, but you know,
Hmm.
pay $1 a
So
pop for synthetics and get good.
I almost feel like maybe the next time I'm at like a hobby shop, I'm going to buy one of the GW synthetic brushes.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it'd
See
be
love
what
it.
fun to do like a blind test, you know?
Yeah. What I would imagine is, I'm sure, which is probably pretty obvious, but I would imagine it'll work. I will probably hardly be able to tell the difference. As you were saying, they work until they don't. So it's like
Right.
this: you're paint like, oh, this is pretty nice, and then like all of a sudden, like it splits or curls or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, this kind of sucks, and then I'm done.
Yeah, a
And
brush does
Yeah.
2 things. It holds paint and it holds a point.
yeah,
As long
Yeah,
as
if
it
it
does those 2
maintains that,
things,
it's
you
fine.
have a functional paintbrush, you know? The minute it stops
Hmm.
doing one of those 2 things, your brush is now broken, you know? And if you know how
so
to fix that, fantastic. If you don't, get a new
so I
brush.
still have the small Citadel dry brush from the first paint set that we ever
No
had.
shit.
I still have it. Actually, let me turn on camera. It's pretty fucked.
So let's get up on this.
It's pretty fucked.
Was it actually sold as a dry brush?
That's what they call it. I'm pretty sure that's what it's from. Citadel small dry brush, it says. And
I'll be damned.
it's pretty fucked. If I can get it.
Fuck this, Adam. What the fuck? You have a mold line remover. Why is that there?
I was given that.
I got one of those things. Those things are fucking great once in a while, not for removing mold lines, but for all kinds of other stuff.
I should probably. So it kind of holds a point, but there's a lot of dried paint in the like furl or whatever. So it
Sounds like you were using it like a dry brush.
It's pretty fucked. But I still have it.
That's awesome, man. I forgot about the red handles.
Yeah, damn.
I had one. I had one red-handled brush. I remember that. I don't
Yeah.
know why or how, but I did.
Well, it's interesting in their painting guide here that we're. Let me try and focus a little better.
That was a treasure trove of information
It
for
really
young
was.
hobbyists
But
that
so, like,
Real talk,
largely ignored it.
you need to photograph every page of that and post it everywhere. Like,
Yeah, I should scan
G-Dubs
it.
has been thin your paints in since fucking 92.
Yeah,
We could do an article on our blog of like scan pages of it.
Absolutely.
That would be fun.
Absolutely.
This says 1994. This was printed. Yeah. Well, so one thing that is also funny to think about. Every single picture here, the people are using a different brush, and only this last one here, when they're painting the Citadel Knight, that's the only one that looks like maybe they're using one of these red Citadel brushes. This top one is a black brush, and this one here is a very different red colored handle.
Yeah, man. I mean,
as you would imagine,
the heavy metal team was like 4 dudes. It was
they're
Blanche,
painting,
Mike McVeigh, and the guys that won the game. You know,
they're painting with what they have. But I should
and figuring it out as they went.
Yeah,
that's a thing that I think, you know, everybody's all about Blanche these days, and I'm fucking cool with that because the dude's amazing. But one of the things that was really amazing about him and the rest of the team back then was they were in fucking unproven ground every step of the way. Miniature painters had painted in enamels and oils for everything up to that point, because why wouldn't you? They were awesome. And then all of a sudden they were like, we need to sell this game to children.
Yeah, we don't want them.
I can't sell turpentine to 5-year-olds. What are we gonna do? You know? So like, they figure out these guys literally learned how to use a fairly new style of paint for a utility that it was never designed for.
Yeah.
And made it awesome. Like those guys were fucking pioneers. Like, they don't get the credit they deserve, I don't think. So,
I think you're right.
I sort of feel like a lot of people thinking about it kind of just assume that a lot of that knowledge and stuff was around since the beginning, which he had obviously wasn't.
Dude, Mike McVeigh was like 15 when he joined the heavy metal team. Like, he made those those dioramas of like, you know, Horus smashing Sanguinius and the Emperor standing there or whatever.
And Azrael standing in that like chapel on the rock. And
he made those when he was like 17 years old. Like,
that's wild.
What the fuck did we ever do? You know, like those guys were cowboys. That. Yeah. There's if you can find if you
and like all of those are in the little Warhammer World Museum that they have there.
Dude, I want to go so bad.
Yeah, it's cool that they're all there. Hey, Lifeboat, nice to have you here.
But yeah, that's I think that's a thing. Like, we were so used to like the spectacle that those guys provided. You know, like just this nonstop barrage of inspiration coming from people that were literally figuring it out as they went and killing it. So like, I think it's important to remember that, you know, it's not just that these were like gifted artists. They were willing to just say fuck it and take a risk at being awesome. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe sometime in the near future, we'll scan some of these pages and see.
I want to find all of them because
learn how to paint back from 1994.
I had 3 of those, and none of them were that one. I had the one that came with the ink set.
Yeah.
That taught you how to not make your dwarf purple. There was one that came. There was one that came with. I don't even know what set. Did they make a set just for like armor or something? Because I had a pamphlet that had this dwarf that I actually just painted recently that taught you how to dry brush chainmail, which was like the most amazing thing I'd ever seen in my life, and pretty much was like the only thing I knew how to paint for like the following 5 years. And then they had the Space Marine painting guide, which I just recently gave to a mentor friend of mine that I found. That one's pretty cool.
That's great.
But yeah, they were just all little pamphlets that folded into these little tiny box sets of paints and inks that I think Coat d'Arms was making or something.
Sort of feel like I used to have at least one other one, and I'll have to look around to see if I can find it.
they're all treasure troves, but that's the fucking that's the smoking gun right there, fellas.
From 1994, they were telling you to thin your paints.
Too thin coats since '94.
It's
Love
great.
it.
Damn, I can't believe that. Yeah, we just didn't read. Well, I mean, ultimately, I can believe that we didn't, but it's still.
This might be like a Berenstain Bears situation too. Like this is all just like the Hadron Collider got thrown, and now like they were just telling us all along, and nobody knew.
Yeah.
None of us were reading. We were too busy being like Space Marines. You know, it was.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I mean, I guess.
Well, I feel if this would have, even if they would have used the same language and reprinted this today, I feel they would have like bolded or underlined, like add water or something, like, because it was so. Even just reading it, if you know, it's just like, oh yes, of course they say that, but
Actually,
it can be easy to gloss over if you're not.
This is going to sound redundant because I know you did it already. I mean, it's not going to sound redundant. It is redundant. But would you read the sentence where they say to add water there real quick? Because I'm actually curious about the wording.
Okay, so remove a. I'm just going to read the whole section because there's a lot.
Let's have it. Let's do it. Gospel.
Yeah, remove a small amount of paint from the pot and mix it on your palette with a little water before applying it to your models. Never use paint straight from the pot because the consistency may not be right. Mix the paint on your palette first, checking the consistency and adding more water if needed. All of the paints in the Citadel color range are fully intermixable, allowing you to produce a huge range of colors. Yeah, so it's not like they
didn't.
Said,
they were very clear.
No. Everything they just said was absolutely true.
Yeah.
And to a room full of dudes who all know how to mix paint, every single thing there made perfect sense. Now imagine that somebody, say you've never touched paint before in your life, and somebody says, add a little of this. If it's not that good, maybe add some more.
Yeah.
And that should work now. And see what happens. There's a reason they stopped using this language. It's not teachable.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that that's why fucking dude, Duncan Rhodes is a fucking saint. I don't care what anybody fucking says. Okay, the insane amount of confidence that one human being gave an entire generation of nerds.
That is true.
Cannot be overstated. Like he's like, just do this, add a couple of drops of this, buy all these things, and everything's gonna be fantastic. You know, and
to like show, and like literally every time he does it, he shows you like taking the paint from the brush, putting it on the palette, putting the water, saying it every time, like
every
that
single time. Mantra. And it good. You know, people make fun of it and you know, treat it like, oh, it's just paint by numbers. I'm like, motherfucker, he just painted a fucking Space Marine. How's yours look? You know?
No. I feel it's important. But I still think looking back at that language, it was much better than I would have initially thought.
No, that's written from a very artistic perspective, which is play with it until it works, is what they're saying.
I feel maybe the thing that impresses me the most is right after they tell you to add the water, which again, they don't really tell you enough to make it clear, but they at least say never use paint straight from the pot. Like I feel that was the sort of thing that at least they said that. And so that is a definitive don't do that.
Yeah, man. No, like as somebody that's tried to teach people how to paint for years and years and years, just because I like teaching. It's fun. It's hard because you want to just say that. You're like, just add some water, try it out. It'll be cool. Just mess with it until it works. Right?
Yeah.
Simplest thing in the world. No, fuck no. If you don't know what you're doing, you're like, oh wait, you want me to do what?
Yeah.
You know, like I'm gonna wreck this thing. This costs money, dude.
Yeah, and I feel that honestly is a thing that like I feel you come up against constantly in the hobby. And I think probably a little bit of it is because of the thing that everything's expensive. It takes a long time to assemble and clean and whatnot. But everything from trying different ways to paint to even like with the Ink 28 stuff about like trying to play your own 28 style games there's like so much. Wait, how exactly do you do this? What rule set do you do? Like how like there's lots of
Yeah.
I know apprehension on that, and not enough people just trusting in their own skills to just give it a try. It'll probably work better than you anticipate.
Yeah. Well, and
Okay,
that was the
actually,
thing. That was the reason I asked that question earlier too, because it was just like when I was like, "How much of that do you think is coming from the culture, and how much of it do you
yeah.
think is coming from above?" Because I've never felt like anybody that made a game ever tried to limit me in any way in how I could enjoy it or experiment with it. But
Hmm.
I'll be damned if a bunch of nerds won't fucking sit around and convince each other they can't fucking try shit. So
That's
Yeah.
true. Okay, so actually, this is pretty great. So in there, in the little sections where they tell you to paint a space marine or a chaos
mhm.
warrior, there are some pretty good things here. So for base coat, apply a smooth layer of paint to your model. Make sure your paint is not too thick or too thin. So like,
Which means what?
yeah, so it doesn't mean like what they really needed, like one more sentence or something saying if it's too thin, you'll have to apply multiple coats to like get a good coverage or whatever. But so
Yeah.
what else do they say?
In order to explain it, they'd have to write a book at you, which is why
But
everyone hates
actually,
it when I
shit.
join their discords.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting on below with the Chaos Warrior, they have another thing about base coat where they essentially just use it to say more information. Be careful at this stage. Neatness is the key to good miniature painting. That's at the base coat stage. That's interesting. Like,
Yeah, it's all objectively true. It's
yeah.
also objectively not enough information
Wow,
to
they tell
get
you
somebody to
so little
understand what
here.
you're getting at.
Oh, that's amazing.
They were figuring out how to do it and then trying to figure out how to communicate a
Oh
skill
fuck.
that they had barely developed yet.
Wait.
As
So it's
yeah.
interesting, like here they have like the final Space Marine, and then right beside it's like, wow, this one looks a lot better. And it's a
Now paint the fucking
yeah,
owl.
yeah. Now draw the fucking owl. Yeah. There's a wide range of painting guides available from Games Workshop. The first in the series is the Heavy Metal Painting Guide, and that's where they stop
Yeah,
it.
now draw the owl.
Yeah.
So bitching.
When this little chaos warrior, this model has been finished using some of the advanced techniques described in the painting guide. Fuck yeah.
This has been pin washed with ink. This has
Yeah.
been decaled and glazed and highlighted and wet blended and all this other shit that you will not even begin to hear about for the
Yeah.
next 20 years because we don't really know how we did it yet either.
I love that there's a little Legion of the Damned Space Marine here.
Hell yeah, dude.
It's cool. Oh, actually, shit. Let's look how to base your models. 1. Glue the model onto its slaughter
Put some
base.
sand on that shit.
2. Paint some PVA glue onto the surface of the slaughter base. Dip the
I still do
base
that.
into a shallow container of sand. And then
Which you can
step
get
4.
from your yard.
Then
Yeah.
get out the goblin green.
Yeah.
And get out the goblin.
When the glue is totally dry, paint the base green. Fuck yeah.
That's it's hilarious how the green base was so prevalent
I
for
love
that
it.
time period.
But it's because it's for exactly the same reason that's the last bit of advice that happens in every Duncan video. You know, it's like it doesn't really fucking matter what you do with the rest of this army. If all the bases look the same, guess what, dude? You have unit cohesion. Everything looks
Yeah.
fantastic. Every single thing in a GW display case looked harmonious because of those fucking hideous bases.
Yeah, I love these older Citadel color paints. Like the names of the paints were like fucking great.
Yeah,
Vomit
man.
brown, hideous blue. What makes it hideous? I don't know, but I love it. Nauseating blue, deadly nightshade. I remember deadly nightshade. Fuck
The
yeah.
old Blanchitsu article had a caricature of Blanche riding up to the studio on a fucking Harley or whatever he was riding. Like he wore a biker cut in the studio, man. Like that place was metal as shit.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Read Realm of Chaos. That was what was happening in G Dubs back then. You know, like that's the G Dubs I want to go to.
Hey Dave, nice to have you here, and also Freddie was wrong. Nice to have you here too.
Hey, Freddy's awesome.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
we've been looking through this old Citadel painting guide, and we've made some great discoveries.
They lied. They didn't lie to us at all. They were completely honest and upfront, and we were too stupid to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's
One thing I
true.
was wanting to see if they told you to remove the mold lines from your models, and that's something. Here's preparing your models.
They did.
It says
yeah.
carefully remove your models from their sprues with a sharp modeling knife. Always remember to cut away from yourself, then glue the model to their slaughter bases. They don't tell you to remove the mold lines.
Well, you got to remember too. You said this is 94.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how many plastic models they had in their range?
Yeah, not that many.
Like 2
The ones in that book.
box. Yeah.
Everything. I mean, it's not like you didn't have to prep metal models. They were all fucking, clamshell molds.
hmm
But it was different.
It was very different.
Learning plastics as they progressed was an interesting thing, and we're all kind of lucky for it. We got to go through the growing pains of an entirely new medium, so we learned a lot in the process.
Yeah, I was sort of
But yeah.
surprised. Like, it was interesting. Like Games Workshop, they released a ton of different games, and a lot of the earlier ones, they did sort of have a surprising number of plastic models. Like there were a lot, but I feel most people didn't come in contact with that many, because like
No, and they were objectively worse than the metals. The tech just
yeah.
hadn't caught up yet. Like again, like for all the bad things this company has done, and they have, they did so much good. Like they've almost like single-handedly driven the development of new injection molding techniques and machineries and virtual space sculpting in the brain, or I don't even know how the fuck they make models now. It's crazy. But
Yeah.
but it's because of fucking G-dubs. Nobody else has that kind of fucking market cap.
That is true.
They did it. They made Bobo plastic models in the 90s, and now they make amazing shit that I can't figure out how to paint because I'm old.
Well, because like
But it's awesome.
Yeah. Nah, because like they even had like they've had the old plastic, like what I guess ended up becoming Necron models, that old like space skeleton dude.
Yeah, the Chaos Android from Space Crusade.
Yeah, so like
Milton Bradley actually made those.
Yeah, you're right. So Space Crusade, they had a surprising variety of different like plastic models in that.
They were heinous.
Yeah, like they need some work.
I had a Hero Quest mummy it was like painting an eraser topper.
Oh my god.
Milton Bradley did some G-dubs partnership. See, this is where we just start getting into that how old are you conversation.
Well, didn't Milton Bradley just hold a fake Kickstarter to re-release Hero Quest?
Was that fake?
Well, I mean, it's not fake, but it wasn't Kickstarter. They made their own platform to do their own Kickstarter-like things such that they would get all the money.
Oh, seriously? Oh,
well, it's the I don't think they actually like I don't know the business end. I'm just assuming that they either chose not to or negotiations broke down. Regardless, G-dubs, IP is not present in the new Hero Quest. It's just a rewritten. It's a vanilla Hero Quest, but still the same game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you were there for the game, if you were there for the story, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, those old. Some of those were whatever. Plastics have come so far. Like old plastic minis were garbage. Like you flipped out when they put out a metal unit box for somebody. You're like, oh sweet, I don't have to use these anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like the polar opposite now. Like people, like you were saying earlier, it's like, oh, those old Gorka Morka models are all metal. I'm just like, they're amazing. because the plastic ones were garbage.
Well, for
They
a
were so bad.
long time, like I preferred metal models. I
Yeah.
certainly like if you had to choose between metal and resin, I like the metal models better.
Oh fuck yeah, resin's garbage.
I fucking hate resin. But the metal models, they're much different to work with, and they still have a lot of
everything's
charm to them. And I
yeah.
really like the weight to them.
They do. Well, especially, if you played an army or a game or just had a preference for big chunky models, like, yeah, dude, you could sock jack somebody with a couple of orcs.
Like the fucking dreadnoughts.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Okay, so
they were fun.
Here I have. So here's sometime I want to paint these little guys. So here's what do they call Warhammer 40,000 Citadel miniatures. These were Rogue 5001 Rogue Trader, and does it even say what they're supposed to be?
Whoa!
They're obviously
those are Elder pirates, son.
Yeah, they're obviously. It says on their little base things, little slots.
Those
Eldar,
are pirates.
Eldar.
Does it say pirate on the other side?
Probably does. I have.
That's dope.
It says,
the whole Craft World thing just came in the second edition. Before that, they were space pirates, and they were way the fuck cooler.
GW. Yeah. It says GW 1987, at least on one of them. So yeah, they're pretty fucking cool. Like I like these Eldar models better than most of the new Eldar models.
You just jogged my memory with that, for real. I said earlier on that the first mini I ever painted was one of the second edition Goths. It wasn't because I went to a store to get the second edition box and they didn't have it. But they did have a blister of Striking Scorpions.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They were just like that. They were like one-piece slotted-base models, and I got them. And I was like, man, I would totally play this army, and painted them with like my sister's fingernail polish or some shit.
Yeah.
And then I realized that in order to play Elder, I would need to take out a loan and become like a drug kingpin or something, because they didn't have any plastic models, and it was all like $10 for 2 of those things that were imported from the UK. So it's like,
so it's like not tenable.
Well, yeah,
look at all 40 green guys. Let's do that.
On the side of the package, there's a little sticker there that says 10, so I imagine at one time these were $10.
They weren't that. I mean, they were expensive for me because I was 15.
Yeah.
But they weren't that expensive. Like, you could get a squad of metal Space Marines and Rogue Treader in a blister like that for $10.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they were fucking cool. So.
Actually, let's see what they actually have instructions on the back of the package here. Let's read some.
For real?
They do.
Yeah, what does it say?
We recommend models are cleaned and trimmed with a modeling knife and undercoated before painting with Citadel Color range of acrylic paints. Hints and tips on how to create prize-winning displays are available in Citadel publications like the Citadel Compendium or our popular catalog featuring illustrations of all of our ranges, and the irregular Citadel Journal, which features catalog editions.
Remember Citadel Journal.
Articles on painting and modeling, and the Warhammer Rule editions. Oh fuck, this is the best. This is the best part. Lists of all of our latest releases and full information on all of these great products are available on request. Send a large first class stamped SAE to Citadel Miniatures
to England.
Yeah, Hilltop, Eastwood, Nottingham, UK. US customers contact Games Workshop 8920 Route 108 Columbia, Maryland. Fuck yeah.
I was gonna say, weren't they in Maryland? I thought they were in Baltimore at one point.
Yeah, so that's like right south of Baltimore. Like,
so did you guys ever go? Because Games Day was in Baltimore, wasn't it? Did
you
guys
go there? Right in the convention center. So right there. So we went a bunch of times.
Okay, that's fucking cool.
Because it was pretty close, and the headquarters at the time. It was kind of in the Glen Burnie area. It was very close.
Yeah.
And we never actually went to it when it was GW, because then they moved, and then the space that they used to be in for a while was another game store called Drop Zone Games, because
I remember that.
it was like it was still pretty well set up for a game store.
No, that was the first chapter approved. Jesus Christ, I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
I remember in the old White Dwarves, it'd be like, "Is your store chapter approved? Do they actually carry?"
Oh yeah, you're right. They had the little fold out, the little like,
Yeah,
and it had the cool Wayne England skull thing, like
Fucking
Dude,
metal.
yeah.
my king. I have seriously, like, every time I actually bump into a Warhammer nerd at my job, I have desperately tried to get them to let me tattoo a Wayne England skull on them. He's like the
It's
single
so
greatest,
fucking
like,
cool. Yeah.
dude, the single greatest artistic influence on me the entire time I was growing up. Never got to fucking do it. But either way,
Yeah, like
no, I remember Drop Zone from the fucking the inserts. That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, damn.
so we also have a fuck ton of the older White Dwarf magazines. We should find some of those and like
Those things are a
look at 'em,
trove, dude.
because there's a
There's
lot
so
of
much good
weird
stuff
shit
in
in
there.
it. Yeah.
It's weird, and it's like, yeah, it's like I was saying, like, one month it'd just be like, hey, here's how to make a high German middle Gothic village out of shit that's in your trash can,
Yeah.
and it's gonna look great. You know, it was amazing.
Yeah, very different. Like I know there was an old shop somewhere near where we grew up that still had a lot of the really old Games Workshop White Dwarf magazines, and I know we bought one or two of them, and I don't remember how early they were, but some of them were very early on in the run, and they at the time we bought the original Rogue Trader rule book from them. Like they
That
still
book is
had
so
all that
good.
old shit.
That book is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like, White Dwarf is crazy too, because like White Dwarf goes way back before G-Dubs did. Like it was like it was a Dungeons and Dragons zine, you know?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that was just like what they did. It was like photocopies of like Kludge TSR supplements and shit.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it eventually just kind of morphed into like the official Citadel mouthpiece or whatever. But for the longest time, like I I don't I quit reading it before it stopped being useful.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's been a while.
But it's definitely an ad sheet now. But yeah, but even then, for a while, they were doing those big, like, Blanche sections or whatever. I don't know how useful those were. I never read them. But
They weren't necessarily useful because like they didn't really
real
tell you
expensive.
much. It's just like,
Okay.
hey, here's cool stuff people are
Remember
doing.
this painting?
Yeah, here's cool stuff people are doing that isn't just painting like we tell you to paint stuff. So like
they aren't just models you can buy, which it was still cool and maybe important in the sense that it was a small window into how things can be different, even though, and so that was exciting, even though it really ultimately was like 2 pages with like 1 paragraph of text.
Yeah, but it's still in a small way. I think those articles were really important to some people, because if they were just if they were into the hobby and like a few pages like every issue showing like, whoa, what the fuck is that? Like, how did they paint that? Or like, where did they like get? So it was at least a small window to try and convince people too. Like, do what you want to do whatever. Like, if you think it would be cool to like splice together stuff from like our most disparate ranges and like use the craziest colors you can, like, you go do that.
Yeah, that's a thing too, like, god damn it, I'm drifting here. Nope, I lost it. Go on, sorry.
Well, also
it was
it would
gonna be
be
really
like,
good.
Yeah.
if because also some of those earlier Blanchitsu things had like some of like the Iron Sleet crew and different people before they were Iron Sleet, like Spiky Rat Pack with Kiri and
Yeah.
such, and
That was how I found out about those guys.
Yeah.
so like that sense it was cool too that like you might have been so like we had been following some of those blogs, and it was neat to see like something that you had seen on the internet get transposed into like the magazine,
Oh, totally.
be kind of given some additional legitimacy.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, I really wish they continue, because it wouldn't even have to be Blanchitsu, but like just more things like that to kind of celebrate it as kind of a creative form of expression. And I mean, I guess
there'll be another thing, you
there
know.
will
Yeah.
be. They do show like models and stuff people are painting and stuff towards the end of the magazine. So like I feel they're doing an okay job trying to celebrate like what their customers and stuff are doing, and like the community Warhammer community sites, like it's nice there's actually
some of that,
thing. There's a thing now, because for a long time they kind of just wanted
Oh, yeah,
nothing
there
to
was
do
no-
with social media.
Well, I mean, they couldn't. Every time they did anything, they'd be crucified by 1,000 angry basement dwellers, you know, and
True.
they earned
yeah,
it.
it's true.
But I mean, it was a two-way malevolence, you know. Like
Mhm.
it wasn't just the evil empire; it was the barbarians at the gates too.
That's fair.
But yeah, it was a growing pains thing, I think, and that's why I think it's important that, you know, stuff like 28 exists. That's why it's important.
Yeah,
that-
because admittedly, I feel 28 is the more to be like, I look back fondly on those like Blanchitsu articles, but like none of like most articles in 28 have more like content and detail than any of those did. So
It's written by nerds for nerds. It's going back to
yeah,
the old zine format. You brought up the journal earlier.
Yeah.
Have you
yeah,
have you ever
Citadel
looked at a
Journal.
Citadel journal?
Yeah, they were pretty dense.
Dude, well, they were
Yeah.
dense and they were typo ridden and slapped together and literally physically cut and pasted. It was like if it said, you know, Misfits tour on the front of it, I would have fucking believed it. Like
Yeah.
they were punk rock zines full of nerd shit.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
Glenn
true.
Danzig.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
We needed it back, and frankly, you guys, despite the fact that you have a very nice design team, you guys did that with 28. It's a fucking punk rock nerd zine. It just happens to have really slick presentation, which helps. But,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's awesome. That's what we needed. It's just nerds need to take agency over the things they love, or they get sold to them instead. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
But yeah, there's good stuff out there, and I like to see the communication happening there. It's cool to see people latch onto ideas and keep floating them around, because there's always something good to come from the cross pollination. As long as things don't sit still, things get better.
That's true. That's very true.
Yep. That was a pretty epic rant, yo.
It was pretty
Yeah.
epic.
We did okay.
Yeah, I think so. Like I guess perhaps with that in mind, like maybe we want to think about calling the stream to a close sometime soon.
We
Yeah.
just exhaled and realized we have to fucking leave.
We have lives to get back to.
It's true.
I'm tired. I need to be up at 6 tomorrow.
I got orcs to paint. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Works
the best thing. But the real question is, will any of those orcs that you want to paint be cruel boys?
I don't even know what that is. What do we?
That's the new Age of Sigmar, like
Oh, is that the swamp orcs or whatever?
The swamp orcs.
yeah.
That's another rant. We'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, I would paint one, but I would not buy one. Well, maybe I would buy one, but Maybe not.
Are you going to go through like all the stages of denial here, or all the stages of grief here, real quick?
Yeah.
You're going to start bargaining next.
Yeah.
It's like, well, perhaps in this circumstance, I would.
Whatever. I got the fucking box set under my bed.
I don't want it. Well, I don't even know how much the box set costs. It's probably like $200.
Dude, I looked. It hurt. I was
think
like, well,
it's
that does that.
I don't need to spend $200 for a gigantic box that'll just sit behind me in these streams, like back there, and not.
Unboxing videos. That's the way forward, right?
Yeah, right. People like those. I like those.
I feel, yeah. There's stuff could be done with that. Like, I feel we could make unboxing videos where we actually like talk, because like the unboxing videos and stuff I watch, like they don't really tell me the information that I want to hear.
Man, I want to know if I can make it blue.
Yeah.
Hand me the thing.
Yeah. Well, I guess thanks, Phil, for joining us. Like, it was a rousing good time. Like,
yeah, good discussion.
Yeah.
Memory lane.
Yeah,
man, thanks for having me, guys. I will talk about old nerd shit anytime.
Yeah, I mean, we'll need to have you back again relatively soon, because there are lots of topics we can discuss.
I have a hard time shutting up. Yeah, we'll talk Cruel Boys. I got to figure out what those are before I talk to you.
I might buy one of them on eBay.
We've gone from like no to like maybe you know.
No, I mean I
can get like a Czech recast maybe. Yeah.
What I would no, I think. So I've been slowly trying. This is the last thing. I've been slowly trying to convert a few like orc models to make like a kill team or something that I'll never play with.
Right.
But I think the Cruel Boys, like their proportions and anatomy are really whacked, really different from other orcs. So it's like that. I think would be cool to convert an orc that just looks really different to join the group of this misfit, fucked up like mercenaries.
I want those Cruel Boys for Gorka Morka.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I'm not paying $200 for it, but I'm not gonna be like, these models are bad. Like, if you don't like the model, fucking make it cool, man. You got all the spare parts.
I guess the real problem with using them in Gorka Morka is you probably can't fit them on those Gorka Morka bases.
Oh fuck! I'm never using those things again. I don't care how utilitarian
they were terrible.
That was a fucking nightmare. Anyway, I gotta tell my kid about that story. But
yeah. Well,
those bases. I have them somewhere.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Yeah, it's been fun, everybody.
It was so fun to actually talk to you. We've been tight.
Yeah, that's true.
It's nice to hang out. So,
but yeah, I guess everybody keep on enjoying the hobby. Stay safe, stay healthy. Yeah, have fun. Do something cool with the miniatures or whatever you have, whatever you're working with. Yeah, so we'll talk to everyone again soon. Over and out.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.